Welcome to this week's Chinuch Hashkafa message based on the Parsha of the week, taking away something we can discuss with our children in a Chinuch context. And this week I want to share a famous word on the Parsha, but I want to highlight it and just highlight the fact that this is an important Hashkafic issue, a yisoid in our emunah to discuss with our children. The famous kasha, this week's HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, Shlach lecha anoshim, send the meraglim. They should go and spy out the land. They should go and see what the land looks like. Hechazok hu harafa, is it a strong land, a weak land, and so on and so forth. We all know meraglim come back. They give a negative report. The Bnei Yisrael cry, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is goizer, decrees that the Yidden need to stay in the midbar for 40 years. And the famous kasha is, what was the chet? What was the sin of the meraglim? They just did their job. They were told to go spy out the land and come back with a report, strong, weak, and so on, and exactly what they did. They saw giants, they saw fortified cities, they saw big fruit, they saw Eretz Yecheles Eshvea, and they came back and they did exactly what they were told to do. But of course we know the famous answer on that kasha is the following. That they misunderstood their shlichus, they misunderstood their mission completely. The mission was not to come back and assess if the land is possible to conquer. The mission, the shlichus, was to come back and tell them strategically how the land could be conquered. It wasn't a question of if, it was a question of how. They misunderstood that. They came back and said, no, we can't conquer this land. They went to the if, they didn't go to the how. The reason I shared this word this week is because this is a general concept to discuss with children. On the one hand, to acknowledge that we have a Yetzer Hara, to acknowledge that there are struggles. Children go through social struggles. Depending on what community we live in, they might be in a class where there's other children who can do the things you don't want them to do. They can have parties, the type that you don't want them to have. Getting up in the morning might be another child struggle. Learning Bahasmada might be a different struggle. All these things can be real struggles, and it's no point in dismissing the struggles, especially nowadays. Sometimes we have to acknowledge the struggle. We have to say, I know it's hard for you. The very first simon in Shulchan Aruch is Val Yevosh B'pnei HaMaligim, not to be embarrassed in front of those that scoff. Social pressure. Shulchan Aruch acknowledges that it's difficult. That's the first halacha, one of the first halachas. So there are difficulties mibafnim umibachutz, internally or externally in the surroundings, that are difficult. But the word to take away from this week's parsha, when we talk about children, it shouldn't be only a word on Parsha Shlach. It should be a word in the way we live our lives. That yes, there are struggles. Some lands are strong. Some situations have giants. But it's not a question of if we can conquer it, it's a question of how. Granted, I understand you find it hard to learn. I understand you find it hard to behave in class. I understand you find it hard to daven properly. I understand all of that. Let's talk about how we can overcome it. Let's devise a strategy. Let's get some advice on chinuch. As parents, sometimes we need to talk to mechanechim, and maybe we shouldn't be expecting them to daven every word. Maybe it should be a little bit less. Maybe there's all kinds of eitzes. But the focus should never be, is this possible? The focus is, how is it possible? What's the way to do it? And of course, as parents, as we always say, we need to set an example. Do children see us being misgaber, being strong and going to a minyan to learn, to daven, or to going to the Beis Medrash to learn, or going to a shir, even though we're very busy? Do they see us finding ways to overcome our challenges? To run a Shabbos table where we have a Yetzer Hara to talk some juicy gossip or Lashon Hara or things that, and yes, we run a proper table. Do they see us that even though we're tired and it's hard for us, but we still spend time with them, or we still spend time learning, and we still spend time doing things that we know are important? Do we display that attitude that it's not if I can do it, but it's how I can do it? And then of course, we can translate that into discussion with them in their nisyonis, in their struggles, that it's not about if, it's about how. Recognizing the struggle, recognizing that some cities are very strong and have giants, but let's talk about how we're going to do this. Because you have the koyach to do this. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you the mitzvah, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu bo b'trunyim b'yosav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you the koyches, you have the koyches to do it. Let's just talk about how we get it done, how we're going to conquer it, and how we're going to achieve it. Have a good day and a good Shabbos.